era begins again.
And welcome everyone to this segment. Today we got the battle for the American motorcycles, Indian versus Harley Davidson. If you don't know, Indian just released its newest model, the 2020, with the beefed up engine, the whole 9 yards. And we're also going to go into the quarterly third report with Harley Davidson Indian, see where they are going right now. But when you see these motorcycles, the Indian and the Harley, the Road Glide, these things look identical. I couldn't believe it when I seen the reviews coming out of it. And let's take a look at some of these reviews, shall we? You can see, man, this is coming out of the Milwaukee Business Journal. And I know Harley Davidson is real big up there. So the Business Journal has a scathing type of review, if you will. Indian unveils the new Challenger, and some see a Harley Davidson Road Glide. You think? This thing looks identical to the Road Glide, man. I couldn't believe it when I seen it. I was like, you know what? Indian's coming out with some good stuff. They got a good engineering program. And next thing you know, they have this beautiful motor, but it make it look like a Road Glide. And what's even worse is they're selling this thing for $27,000. Now, we all complain about Harley Davidson and their pricing. What are you thinking, Polaris? You know, I never understood why anybody would spend upwards to 30 grand on a motorcycle. On a motorcycle, people, $30,000. Not even at $20,000. Come on. It's easier to go to the used bike market and get a good bike. I couldn't believe it. Almost, well, you know, with taxes and all that stuff, you're looking at 30 grand. Anyway, David goes on to say, Indian Motorcycle has revealed its newest model for 2020. The Indian Challenger, and it's likely to look very familiar to many Harley Davidson riders. What do you guys think about that anyway, man? The reproduction, you know, I understand that it's an American style and stuff, but one thing that Indian I thought was going to set them apart was doing their own thing, not looking identical to Harley. The Indian Challenger comes in 3 variants, the Challenger, the Dark Horse, and the Limited, $21, $27, and $27.99 respectively. The Indian, the vintage motorcycle brand that Medina, Minnesota-based parent company Polaris has positioned as an alternative to the heavyweights from Harley Davidson, teased the motorcycle last week when it released details of the new PowerPlus engine that is at the heart of the Challenger. Again, we're looking at this, and, you know, from the untrained eye, it's a Harley. You know, take off the logo, stuff like that. It's got the V-twin, blah, blah, blah. But come on, really? The big difference between the power plants, though, is it's liquid cooled. It's 108 cubes. It's the newest model, is perhaps the brand's deepest excursion yet in the Harley Davidson's market, and there's one big reason to look at it that way. You know, not only are they getting into the market, they're getting up that butt, man. They're taking all the ideals. Why don't you guys just get the blueprints from Harley Davidson themselves? You know, Indian, everybody's talking about switching over to them, which is great, but I don't see, you know, the incentive for switching over to them if it's going to be looking like the same bike and about the same prices. Even before Tuesday's official rollout, more than one motorcycle or motorsports industry writer compared some earlier leaked images of the Challenger to Harley Davidson's Road Glide, a big touring bike that represented a sizable portion of the sales mix for Milwaukee-based Harley Davidson in 2013, when the iconic motorcycle manufacturer put Road Glide on the hiatus that lasted all of 1 year. Now, there you go. There's a picture of the Road Glide, and then you compare it to that one. Do you know the difference? Come on, really? They even got the same damn colors. When teasing the new Challenger model last week, Indian described it as a fixed fairing bagger, a term that aptly describes the Road Glide. With the Challenger, Indian is clearly targeting one of Harley Davidson's basic market spaces. Upon reintroducing an updated Road Glide for the 2015, Harley's chief financial officer John Allen said in January that Road Glide accounted for 9% of the company's sales volume. Well, if it's, accounting for 9%, maybe Indian's doing something, man. Maybe they're trying to cut into that 9%. It could hurt Harley Davidson, as it said. So can the Challenger slice into that market? And they go into the scoop. The PowerPlus V-twin's pushing 128 foot-pounds of torque, packed in the cast aluminum frame with inverted front suspension and an adjustable rear shock, Brembo brake system, and large 18-gallon capacity saddlebags. Additional features include cruise control, LED, anti-lock brakes, and keyless ignition. The Dark Horse and the Limited include Indian Smart Lean technology, which enhances braking, traction control, and handling. Here I got a 2001 Fat Boy, and I can't get over radios being put on motorcycles, still carbureted, and these things pretty soon on the drive themselves the way they're going. Anyway, how's it compare with the Road Glide? The 2020 Road Glide is powered by the 107 or 114, 111 or 122 pounds of torque. Cruise control has basically the same type of stuff, and it's in the same price range. That's where I don't get what Indian's doing. 21 up to 28 for the Limited. The Indian Challenger's PowerPlus engines are made at a Wisconsin plant. Rock on. While the assembly of the Challenger is in Spirit Lake, Iowa. Let's throw this on real quick and let's see what we're looking at here. My God. Turn that off there so I had to talk. Again, it looks just like the Road Glide going on there. And, it's the fixed fairing, the whole 9 yards. The only advantage is it's got the liquid cool. Now, I know a lot of people out there don't like liquid cool stuff. But, yeah, if you were driving down the road, take off all the emblems, and you're looking at the same stuff Harley did, man. It's unreal. I'm very disappointed that Indian went this route. I thought they'd have some of their own design concepts, and I think that's where the Dark Horse was pretty successful, was, they did their own thing. They made it looking rockin'. And they had their own feel to it. But when you're just out there copying freaking other manufacturers' motorcycles, man, what kind of loyalty are you going to get from there? The only difference is you're getting that new freaking motor in there that's liquid cooled. But that's it, really. But let's take a look over at Harley Davidson versus Indian sales for quarter 3, and this is going to tell you right where the companies are as far as financial, if they're going up, they're going down, the whole 9 yards. And it was released by Harley Davidson and Polaris. If you didn't know, Indian is made by Polaris. The last week, October 22nd, so they were just released. Now, Harley Davidson's report, the downward trend continues for the motor company, but numbers in the Harley Davidson Q3 report are actually better than what was expected, suggesting that Harley has slowed the bleed. Now, if you don't know what slow the bleed means, is Harley's sales has just plummeted since 2016, and that's because not a lot of new riders are coming into the scene. They rather buy them little scooters and stuff, and actually Harley Davidson's going after that market too, and they're going after the e-bike market, which I don't think they're going to have any luck at. Sales are down 3.6% on domestics, that's the United States, but continue to grow internationally with a 2.7 increase for the third quarter. Of the motorcycle product mix, the touring segment which is the one we just talked about, Harley's largest chunk of the pie, is being hit the hardest with a decrease in unit sales of more than 10%. The Sportster Street segment is down 6.5, while the Cruiser division, well, cruising right along still, the numbers outperform the expectations. And I'm kind of surprised that the Sportster and Street segment is down 6.5%, because you would think that is where they would actually be doing the building, if you know what I mean, because not a lot of people want the bigger bikes, and especially the newer generation. Anyway, in the days prior to Harley Davidson's Q3 report earnings release, HD experienced a bit of a headache with the halt in production of the heavily touted Livewire. You know, I really believe it's going to take 4 or 5 years for that technology to catch up with it. Zero is the king of electric motorcycles, and I don't think Harley Davidson was really prepared to get into that industry. It said the shocking issue proved to be a little more than a speed bump for Harley Davidson and didn't stop their stock from climbing back into the 40s. Personally, I wouldn't do a Harley Davidson stock. There's no long-term outlook for this sector. You know, it's just going to keep on decreasing and decreasing and decreasing in sales. So if you're into the markets like I am, I wouldn't be doing it, man. It's just too much of a freaking risk to go along with these kind of stocks. It says the bigger headache for the motor company, and probably the darkest news of the Q3 report, is 24% decrease in profits over the last period. That is a huge drop in profits. 24% is huge. Anyway, they're attributing to the spike in tariffs, which, come on, man, enough with blaming the tariffs. You've been blaming the tariffs ever since they went into effect. And, you know, don't we remember that you were going over to Asia to build those bikes for it to get around the tariffs? No. You can't keep on using tariffs as an excuse. You really can't. The impact of recent EU and China tariffs, really? Well, you're basically just admitting you're buying parts from China, because why else would, you know, it hurt your brand over there? Come on, you don't do that much over in China. They have nearly doubled over the last year's third quarter, having risen to a year-to-date total of 76.9 million. You know, basically, you guys pass on that tariff stuff anyway to us. See, you got to be real, man. You know, why is the reason why your profit has fallen? Well, it just talked about your percentages dropping off with your Sportster street models, your big road bike market models. That's the trend, and any investor is going to see that. You know, maybe not somebody off the streets or anybody who don't have any basic knowledge of what's going on within the market, but it's right there. The numbers are right there. Now let's go to Polaris. Now they're the owner of Indian. Their Q3 report, they also reported a decrease in retail solo and down sales is in the low double-digit percent, far outweighing the overall downward trend of the mid to heavyweight market. Gross profits also shrank substantially from Indian, from 20 to 12 million in this year. Now they're citing the tariff stuff, but what is concerning is Indian has a way to grow. You know, they can only go up, where Harley Davidson, they already hit that peak and they're heading downwards. So yeah, that's expected. But Indian being, you know, basically brand new again, you know, they have had some reincarnations, and under Polaris you thought they'd be hitting them damn sales, and it's at this point where you're thinking, why the hell did they get rid of the victory line? Truly, you know, I know they want to, you know, put their attention towards Indian, but, you know, with sales like that, You should have kept Victory. Bring him back, man, because Victory was a great bike. I love the jackpot. Anyway, it mitigated some of the discouraging Q3 news with a big reveal of an all-new water-cooled V-twin PowerPlus engine on the same day of their quarterly report. Then it talks about it's going to be pumping out a class-leading 122 horsepower, will serve as the heart of the new Indian Challenger, an all-new fixed bearing bagger that promises to be the highest performing American V-twin ever developed. Well, you know, that's all right and all that stuff, but like we learned earlier, you don't copy, man. Holy cow, don't you? You know what? We used to get blamed for that, for copying in school. So what do you guys think, man? You know, could you believe that Indian would actually copy almost every detail of the Road Glide? Now, I'm one of those guys, see, when people ask, well, why you bump on Harley all the time? You had Harleys, you have a Harley, you have a Fat Boy. Well, that's great and all. I love the motorcycle. I love the designs, and, you know, I hate the company. Why? Because they treat their workers, you know, everybody knows I'm a big union guy. I support our unions 150%. If it wasn't for our unions, you wouldn't have your 40-hour work week. You wouldn't have a lot of these holidays off without the unions. Your pay would still be back in the Stone Ages, okay? So when it comes to a company messing with union workers, of course, I'm not going to give my loyalty to them. And another reason why is because when the Matt came out, the CEO of Harley, and said, well, it really don't matter if it's made in the USA. Are you kidding me? We already know you got all your tinkers and all your components coming from overseas. We knew that. But a lot of us said, okay, it's going to an American company. It's coming back to the, you know, the mainland. So, hey, we can overlook that. But when you say it doesn't matter that it's made in the USA, you have neglected most of your base. Now, you just got rid of a marketing guru, by the way, who was a CEO of a nutritionalist company. So what are you doing that? You don't know nothing about motorcycles. But anyway, they got rid of him because you guys said it does not match our core customer beliefs. Well, made in America is our core customer beliefs. Okay, let me tell you that. And here you got the CEO coming out and saying, well, it don't matter. So yeah, a lot of people are upset with that. And put on top the pricing, you know, now Indian ain't that much better, guys, you know. So it's, you know, which way you're going to, you know, look at. But looking at the sales of the Indians in Q3, man, that's kind of disappointing, or actually 2019, because with Indian coming out with the backing of Polaris, you think that sucker would skyrocket. You know, there's been all kinds of reincarnations of Indian over the years, and all of them failed, and now Polaris is taking their hit with it. I think one of their biggest mistakes was getting rid of Victory, because their sales would still, you know, instead of what was it, 12 million, whatever, in sales in 2019, it could be over 50 to 100 million with Victory. So I don't know what they are thinking over at Polaris, but it's starting to come out that it was a bad mistake getting rid of Victory motorcycle. As far as Harley, if their street and their Sportster line is starting to suffer, you guys got to get out there and do something, man. Stop paying attention to little mopeds and stuff. You guys got to get your freaking core business down before you start branching off into areas you have no clue about. E-bike market, that is the fastest up and coming market there is. E-bikes where you can go 18 to 30 miles at 20 miles an hour, pedal assist, all that type of stuff. You got companies like Trek, Mongoose, and that stuff. People that's been around that business. And as far as electric motorcycles, you got Zero that's just killing you guys. You're not going to be able to get the technology on board. You know, with some of the attachments with Zero, you're talking freaking 350 miles on a charge. You guys can't even get 100 out of it. And, you know, and the first problem you guys hit was the charging power plant on the live wire. So you guys need to get back to the basics, get back to your core customer beliefs and stuff, and basically get it together, man, because them numbers are terrible. Terrible on both manufacturers and disappointed in Polaris. Yeah, they got a great new engine, but doing the copying and stuff, that ain't cool, man. You might as well do what the Japs been doing with the V-twin. They started, back in the early 2000s with the Shadow. They were doing American Classic models, man. They took the V-twin type of deal, the whole 9 yards. Come on, you expect better from an American company. But what do you guys think, man, of Indian copying the Road Glide so much? What do you think is going to help get Harley back on an upward trend as far as sales? And do you think Indian should really bring back, not Indian, freaking Polaris should bring back the Victory models? Because I think those were hot-selling bikes, and I think, they gave up a lot of money in sales, and look what they're doing with Indian. It's just a backwards freaking type of move. And if you're watching from Indian or Polaris, get the models back out there, man. It's going to help boost your sales, because you had a very, very loyal following when it came to Victory Riders, and I just think you blew that. So that's just my opinion on this segment.